Okay, this is a video about my Amstrad NC100 Notepad computer, a machine which I've owned since new in probably somewhere around about May 1992. So as it stands, it's 32 years old. It's a very simple 8-bit computer under the skin. It's only got 64 kilobytes of RAM, and it needs that to run not only the data that's in here, but that's the entirety of the storage as well. So it doesn't take much to really fill this up at all. The programs at least are stored on ROM. I think it's got 256k ROM in here. Mostly that's dedicated towards the word processor, which is its primary function. There's a very simple calculator program in there, very simple. There's also a diary program that lets you store things like names and addresses and important dates and reminders and things like that, so that's in there. There's also BBC Basics hidden away in here as well, and a serial interface. There's no real storage solution, easy storage solution. There's a serial port on the back, and you can transfer files serially between this and a PC computer, but it's really a pain to do it because it's very slow and it'll only allow you to transfer one file at a time. You can't just back everything up. It really is quite tedious. There's also a parallel port on the back which allows you to connect a printer, and I had a little dot matrix printer which I used to print on this from. Okay, so despite its age, it still works. There you go. It's a very simple black and white dot matrix. The dots are either on or off. Very simple. I think there's a two-tone sound generator in here as well. You can see that it's 2024. It never suffered from the Millennium bug. It still works. Still great. Just to very quickly take you through the programs, you've got a word processor. So that's a document. Okay. You can see here some of the shortcuts for different things. There's a very good little spell checker in there, although it is a bit slow. But you can do all the things you want to do. You can edit, you can insert, find, replace. You can put rulers in, move blocks around. So as a word processor, it's not too bad. Although there's obviously no help or anything, you really do have to keep your manual by your side so that you'll know what the functions are and how to do everything you need to do, macros and what have you. So you need that to hand. It's fairly light. There's those ports. It's fairly thin. Runs on 4 AA batteries, which supposedly give it 24 hours of use. Although at the moment it's running on the original power supply, original Amstrad power supply. Like I say, it only has 64 kilobytes of RAM stroke storage in here. And buying extra storage for it was extremely expensive, and although I did do that, I bought this maybe a few months later, and this with 128 kilobytes I think cost me £50 at the time. It's one of these flash memories where it needs a battery in as well, so you've got to make sure you don't forget to change the battery. And that is a full credit card sized thingamajig, and that goes in the side like that. And now if I go back into word processor and list the documents, you should see that there's some more. I think the last thing I was doing here was doing some notes for my Commodore C16 when I was programming it. I think the idea was I was just taking notes I was going to be printing them off later, so I never did. So yeah, just plug it in like that, and that gives you 128 kilobytes. It's still not a massive amount. You're probably lucky if you're talking about 50 or 60 pages, A4 pages of text. Is about the most you're going to be able to store on there. So really, the way you've got to use this thing is you've got to write your document, you've got to get it right, you've got to print it, and then you've got to wipe it. you're very quickly going to run out of memory. Okay, so like I say, you've got a document, you've got your word system. Calculator's rubbish, but there's also in here an address book, which you can mail merge with, I believe. Never actually done it. Calendar diary, that's you know, you've got a little calendar and you can put like alarms and important dates in there. And then finally a time manager. What's the time manager? I can't remember now. Okay, you set alarms and do time zones. Right, fair enough. I'm trying to remember this. Here we go. I think you can set a reminder. Yeah, you can basically put a document behind each one. Although again, that would very quickly eat into your memory and stop it working. There is a secret button which I think allows you to store some documents secretly. Simple, like 4-digit password. I mean, it's not encrypted or anything like that. And then of course you've got the basic, which is the BBC Basic. I do occasionally use a program that I wrote. Oh, what have I done? Oh, cat. Which will be Dark Mass. Right. So if I run dark mass.pass. Yeah, it's a program that I use for doing darkroom. So basically it just does a countdown like that, written in BBC Basic. Basically it beeps when you're supposed to be doing the agitation of the chemicals, and then when you're not doing the agitation, it just beeps. So it's like 50 seconds off, 10 seconds on, and it keeps going round and round in circles. So that's an example of what I did there. Okay, so what problems have I had? Well, I've had really only two. The first was that the screen developed a blob in the middle of it, which was only several pixels wide and tall. And it was definitely an analog fault. It wasn't a digital fault. The liquid crystal must have pooled or something for some reason. But that started to fade away, and as you can see, it's completely gone now. So that was a bit strange. But the big issue I had, and the reason why it was out of use for several years, was because it kept coming up with a weird mode on the screen, and then it was locking me out, and I couldn't understand why. Many years later, as I say, I found out the reason why. What was happening was, this was in a bag, in a case with the printer, and the printer was quite heavy, and there was a board in between. What I didn't realise was that in storage is that the case was pushing down on this bottom row of keys, and although the little bits of plastic were coming up, obviously the membrane underneath must have been locked down. As a result, it was mimicking this effect. It was mimicking the effect of holding down function and symbol, so that when I turned it on, it came out into this self-diagnostics mode. And because these keys were still pressed, the machine was locking up, and I wasn't able to get out of it or move around or do anything. And that was the reason why, because these buttons on the bottom row were being crushed, purely because of the type of case that I was keeping the computer in. These diagnostics are quite good. I mean, there's an LCD test, which is quite good. There's a dump of the character ROM, which useful. It's telling me there that, I don't know what that is, something about a status byte of the memory, battery and power. I'm sure that means something to somebody. Real-time clock. ROM tests, fair enough. RAM test, yep, good. Keyboard test, okay. been handy if I could have got to that when I had the fault, but I couldn't get that far. Anyway, what else have we got in here? Parallel port test. I've got it plugged in at the moment. Sound test. Speakers in there. That's about as exciting as the sound gets. That's it. Diagnostics complete. ROM version 1, April 1992. Yeah, so there we go. So that was an issue that kept it out of use for a long time. The fact that it just wouldn't come out of diagnostics. But for the last several years, every time I pulled out the box, it's worked fine. Just got to keep remembering to change the little lithium battery in the back of here to keep which keeps the internal memory running. Otherwise, you lose everything that's in the internal RAM. Yeah, like I said, the biggest problem was the lack of storage, I think, or lack of inexpensive storage. I've seen versions of computers of this shape and design that had still had the cassette ports on the back. That would have been very useful, but this particular Amstrad didn't have that. This book's very good. I wish I'd, like I say, I wish I'd been able to make more use of it, but I just never really got into it. It's just been in the background really, and that's probably where it's ever going to be. The Amstrad NC100. Okay, so in summary, the Amstrad NC100 did what it was supposed to do fine. Just ultimately for me, my situation's changed and it never really got the use that it otherwise should have done really. If you're ever serious about these machines, this book's quite good. It goes into a lot of advanced details, including the self-test, which I just showed you there, and also hidden features like screen dumps and things like that. But I've never really got into it because, like I say, I never really got into the machine. This was about the time I got my Amiga and went off in that direction really, and then it was into the world of 486s and what have you, and I never really needed to do what I was needing to do previously, which was basically to go like into the college libraries and take down notes and write documents and basically make use of my time in those areas away from home and away from power supplies. So it never really got the use, and as you can see, it's practically like brand new. I mean, this is the case for it, and it's just dusty really. So it must have been reasonably well made to last, 30 odd years. Might have been different if it was getting bashed around every day, but anyway. Okay, remember that user-friendly side. This is an extra bit on how to transfer the data and how tedious it was and cumbersome between your Notepad and a computer that you might have had at home, a PC or something. Unfortunately, the only means of communication really is a serial cable. So the first thing you'd have to do is make sure that both machines are talking the same way. So if I switch this on now and then go into serial terminal, which is this one here, and then press the menu key, we can see some parameters in here, and the parameters that we're interested in really is the baud rate, number of bits, stop bits, whether the handshaking's on. That would then allow us to go into an app on the computer, and we'd have to set up, not in there, we'd have to set up some of the sort of settings in here. So 9600, N8, N1, hardware. So all of this has got to be right. You've also got to make sure you're talking to the right serial device, which in this case is USB because it's a modern-ish computer. So once you've got all that set up, You should then be able to type on this computer, and on the other computer it will write on there like that. And then if I write on this computer, the text appears on this computer. Right, that's exciting, isn't it? Right. Okay, so return there, return there. Right, so actually what I want to do now is I want to save a file from here to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into receive, and I just happen to know that the protocol this machine uses is X modem, so I'm going to go into X modem. I have to enter a file name, so the file name I'm going to enter is the little basic program that I had on the other machine for the dark room, because I don't think I have saved that. So here we go. So now it's ready to receive, and then I have to go into this one, and I have to go into the file manager, which is part of the Word package, find the file that I want to send, which is Dark Master, press that. There's an option for transfer, and we're doing an X modem send, and with a bit of luck, there we go, transfer complete. And I've got to do that for every file. So every file I've got to select it on the Amstrad, and then make sure that it's receiving, and I've also got to type in the file name because it doesn't transfer the file name across. Right, so that's now done. So if I now come out of this package and do an ls, we can see that the program is indeed there. So if I now go back into So I now go back into Minicom, and this time I say I want to send a file via X modem, and the file I want to send is in Amstrad, and the file I want to send is this one here. Alright, so I've got that highlighted there. Can I press return now? Right, so it's trying to send that file. So now I can go back into here, and I can go transfer, this time X modem receive, which is going to be M, and this is going to be something I found called solitaire, but it's in text format, so I'm putting it in solitaire text. Return, and hopefully now that should, oh, there she goes, she's receiving data and she's sending data. I mean, you see how slow this is. I mean, this is 8 kilobytes, 9 kilobytes, 10 kilobytes. It's faster than tape transfer, I suppose, but so how big is this file? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I've now received that file. Is it in here? Yeah, sol.txt. Right. Right, now this sol.txt is a basic file, but it's in text format. So I'm going to now Shift B, which gets me into basic, and do a star cat. So this is the catalogue, so there it is. But unfortunately, with this version of basic, you can't just select the file and load it. It's really, you've got to type it in. So it's going to be star exec sol.txt, and that should type it in. There it is. Type it in quite quickly. Okay, it hasn't carried return the last line by a little bit, so I'll do that. Right, okay. I should now be able to save it as a proper basic file, so I'll call it sol.bas. Oh, it's caps lock on. So that's alright. So if I now do a star cat, sure we have both versions. Yeah, sol.bas and sol.text, that's good. Alright, you actually see there that the proper basic version is a lot smaller than the text versions. That's because it tokenises the commands, I believe. So all I do now is do run and see what I've got. Except that didn't work. Mistake. Oh, because it's in lowercase. Oh, the wonders of BBC Basic. Right. There we go. Right. Patience. Oh, I thought it was called Solitaire, but it's called Patience. Okay. S to start. Please wait, shuffling all the cards. Okay, nothing over this side. I've got the treble reflection. We don't see that in the real world. It's just where this camera is. It stopped. No, it's all gone. Alright. The cards have been shuffled. Press any key. Oh, there we go, a bit of graphics. Look at that. Okay, yeah. Do I want to deal or do I want to move? I don't know, let's have a look if there's anything I can move. I'm trying to do this through the I can put the ace out, can't I? So the ace is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th column. So move. Column 6. 2. I don't know, normally we'll go to a stack, wouldn't you? Right, so I don't know how to operate this program, but there you go. It does work anyway, but you can see that it's slow and it's tedious. Now, when I had my Windows 3.1 machine, there was a terminal program, but it wasn't much better. Again, you had to go through you had to get all the serial parameters correct, but then you still had to do it one file at a time, and you had to also provide the file names. And from memory, I think there was an issue in that the Amstrad was an older version of X modem to what the even the terminal in Windows 3.1 was asking for, and there was a terrible delay while it renegotiated the older protocol. That's from memory. We're going back 30 years here. But now I've got that file onto my PC. I can now save it off to a floppy disk, and that means that instead of me using this £50 as it was memory card to store 128 kilobytes, I can essentially store 10 times the amount of data that's on this card on a floppy disk, which would have probably cost back in the day a couple of quid. And yeah, that was the problem. I mean, yeah, these cards were great, but it was a very expensive way of storing data for the day. I mean, 128 kilobytes. I mean, you can get 32 gigabyte flash drives now for £3 or £4, I believe. Anyway, there we go. The Amstrad and its user friendliness. Although that's perhaps been a bit mean. They did what they could do. There wasn't much space to put decent programs on. Complicated programs. It all had to fit in to what it was. And what it was an old 8-bit computer. So there we go. Amstrad.